Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. Full Gear 2022. We are powered by the lights of the Christmas tree that I put up this morning, and I can honestly say, Full Gear 2022, 5 hours packed full of awesome wrestling. From where I live, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Lots of matches, lots and lots of matches. Only really 3 matches that I looked at my computer, my phone throughout the match. I just didn't really care for what was going down. I'm not the most loyal viewer of AEW, but I make sure I know what is going on. AEW pay-per-views. This one here, pretty good. Like I said, it had 5 hours of wrestling. I didn't really ever get bored during it. $50. I'll say this. AEW, there's only, 4 shows a year? I'll pay for them when they come up. But if they ever, jump up and they're going to, monthly pay-per-views, I'm going to have to really think more about what I'm spending my money on to watch the pay-per-view. I wanted to see MJF win the championship. That was the one thing that I wanted to see more than anything else. But when it really comes down to it, nothing was really pulling at me to buy this show. Once I found out the Bucks were going to be on it with Kenny Omega and making their return in the trios match, that got me excited. But honestly, I found out about that yesterday after I had already kind of made up the idea that if I got the stuff I needed to get done, like mostly putting up the Christmas tree and the Christmas stuff in the house, I was going to buy the show. So like I said, MJF won the championship from Jon Moxley. That was the biggest thing that was on the show. With the show being on Long Island, where the New Jersey Devils play. I guess that's in New Jersey. Is that New Long Island, though? I'm not sure. It's somewhere out there. MJF's home territory. I think with his return as the Devil, they could have had this show anywhere. And I think MJF would have been cheered. But with this being the hometown crowd, it was even louder than it would be anywhere else. And the match was a little bit weird. It was almost like Jon Moxley dominated MJF throughout the whole match. It made MJF look like he was kind of like a mid-card guy that, found his way into the main event and didn't really deserve to be there. And then out of the middle of nowhere, William Regal, who is the leader of the little fighting crew with Moxley, Yoda, I'm always gonna mix up his name. I just did it again. Bryan Danielson. It's so hard to force myself to say that. And Claudio Castagnoli, aka Cesaro. That's gonna be weird. So is Regal leaving the fighting crew and now gonna be with Jon Moxley? To me, that kind of really doesn't make sense. Is it just kicking Moxley out of that group? He's the main guy they got. And I mean, you already had Claudio and Danielson fighting in that match earlier in the night for the ROH belt. So, maybe that group is just done. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but that's probably going to be one of the main storylines going in. But the first thing I thought about before Moxley made his entrance was the fact that at the last pay-per-view, Moxley was supposed to take time off, and then when the whole, CM Punk thing went down, they put him into the tournament, canceling his vacation, and he did right for the company, and I think that now he's going to take that time off. I think this is their way of writing him off. But is Regal still going to be with the other guys? Is MJF going to be with those guys? I don't see Danielson and Claudio wanting to hang out with MJF. So that whole thing really, we'll just have to see how it plays out. The Acclaimed beat Swerve in Our Glory, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Once Keith Lee turned on Swerve, they sort of had a thing in the ring. Swerve slapped him. Keith Lee walked out of him, a lot like Rick Martel and Strikeforce at WrestleMania 5. And honestly, it looked like Swerve almost was going to pull out the win, even though Keith had walked out. And I was like, man, Now they're going to try some WCW crap, where Swerve's going to be the tag champion and he's going to hold both belts and sort of keep Keith Lee in this group, by them being the champion. I'm not sure, but it looks like they're going to be working over each other. Jamie Hayter beat Toni Storm for the women's championship. That to me is a little bit weird because she is, Britt Baker's muscle, and now she is going to be the interim champion. Maybe that's their way of, getting ready to have Thunder Rosa come back, but I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But you would think Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker would be having words kind of like, Evolution did when Randy Orton won the belt, or when Batista was going after the belt. They're kind of like, hey, I'm the leader, I'm the champion. But Britt was right there to celebrate the win, and she was happy for Hayter. Sting and Darby, they got the win over Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. Pretty fun match, but nothing really over the top there. Samoa Joe defeated Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs. Really good three-way match. I've been watching wrestling for a really long time, and apparently I'm the only person who didn't know this. Is a three-way match a no DQ match? Are all of them? Or was it just this one? Because people made it seem like three-way matches are no DQ all the time. So if they're no DQ all the time, why aren't people just coming out and basically having these things turn into hardcore matches? I understand that, when Samoa Joe hit Wardlow with the championship, I thought they were just going to ring the bell, call it a disqualification. But then I guess it would have to be like, well, who's the winner? If Samoa Joe loses, there can't be two winners. But I was like, well, maybe it's just a way to keep the belts on Wardlow. But time stood still forever, and then Joe pinned him. And I don't know. I guess maybe I just haven't been paying attention to three-way dances, but it's not like I've never seen one before. I have them all the time. So I guess that was just a weird ending, and the announcers played it up like they knew what was going on. For some reason, I didn't. Saraya defeated Britt Baker in her comeback match. It was good to see her wrestling again. Jericho defeated Danielson, Claudio, and Sammy in their four-way. This should be interesting, a lot like how we were talking about. I wasn't sure what was going on with that little fighting crew, with them having to fight each other, but there was definitely times that you could tell that Sammy was upset that Chris Jericho was trying to take the limelight for himself. Like, he put him in this match just to make sure that he kept his belt, and Sammy was like, I want to show how good I am. I want to be the champion. And that finally led to Jericho and Sammy actually wrestling inside of the match. Jade defeated Nyla Rose. She got her TBS championship match. Surprise of the night might be the fact that Death Triangle defeated BTE in their comeback match, which is now going to be the kickoff of the best of 7, which should go all the way into the new year. It should be really fun to make sure you tune in to see all of those matches on like New Year's Bash and things like that. Match of the night in my book has to be the opening night steel cage match, Jungle Boy versus Luchasaurus. That match seemed like it was so long ago. It doesn't even seem like it was on this pay-per-view, but what a way to actually open the pay-per-view. Deserving to get people to pay that money. Very early in the match, Luchasaurus and Christian Cage split Jungle Boy open on the actual cage. And Jungle Boy actually had to fight all the way back to the point where he climbed up on top of the cage, jumping off, putting Luchasaurus through the table. On the pre-show match, you had Danhausen coming back, joining Best Friends to get the victory over the Factory. We had Ricky Starks defeating Brian Cage, and then Eddie Kingston defeating a Japanese guy who I guess was his idol, which would be like the equivalent of, the way I took it, it would be the equivalent of me wrestling Hulk Hogan on Nitro, me beating him, and getting to go over on Hulk Hogan. But I was glad for Eddie. Eddie got to sort of say goodbye and give that last little hype to make sure everybody bought the pay-per-view. Ever since they did that memorial show or tribute show like 2 years ago for Luke Harper, and I saw Eddie give his speech in the back to the locker room, I think Eddie Kingston is a leader of the AEW locker room, and he's one of the main guys that, I like. I liked this guy before I even really knew who he was. I'd only seen one match of Eddie Kingston's on the Kevin Steen DVD of the time they had a promo against each other and they wrestled in ROH. And I had this dream one time where I was trying to fly to WrestleMania and I actually ended up missing my flight because I met Eddie Kingston as I was walking through the airport and actually just ended up hanging out with him and talking to him about wrestling. And I knew nothing about him other than his name and what he looked like. So I've known for a long time that this is a cool dude. So like the last 2 years being able to actually watch this guy wrestle and follow him in AEW, yeah, it's pretty cool. But like I said, Full Gear, it's fun. I guess the next pay-per-view it will be in a couple months, and I'll be sitting here on my couch wanting to put up the money to make sure I got it, because I think the WWE Network, Peacock, whatever you want to call it, the $10 a month, $5 a month now. If you watch Peacock with commercials and you don't want that messing up your office, I guess it just watered it down. We've gone, all those years having to buy shows, finding ways to stream them. Now it's almost to the point, I can't even think the last thing I streamed. It just doesn't seem like it's worth it. Just put your money on the table, watch it. If you don't want to watch it, just read the results later. It seems like it's almost too much work to pull that up. So I'm glad that I did it, but when it comes down to it, AEW, to me, you put a show on, I'm going to want to watch it. And I think if you put too many on, it's going to water it down to the point where you're paying too much, and maybe it's not going to be worth it. But as of right now, I'll buy anything they throw at me, and I think it's fun to sit here and watch the wrestling.